and also provides a transition period for ANCs to return to hybrid or in-person meetings and secures technical and support necessary to make these changes happen. It's very important that commissioners be allowed to attend meetings virtually when necessary in order to maximize the inclusion of as many diverse types of people in DC government. This would open it up for parents of young children, people who travel for work, college students who return home for the summer, and the commissioner who represents the DC jail. So it's really important we make sure that all different types of people with different backgrounds can become commissioners, especially since this is an unpaid volunteer position. This issue is very timely, and it's being addressed by commissions all across the city right now. I've been working with a small group of them, especially at 4B and 6B, on this resolution and some other upcoming testimony. Keep your eyes out because we're going to be circulating like a brief sign-on letter in the next few weeks asking the council to take action on that. So I think that'll be a good addition to this resolution. I don't know if Commissioner Pemerol, you have anything to add?
Excellent summary, Christian. Thank you for the really strong first draft and for the thought you put into this and for the inter-ANC collaboration.
Great. So I move that we approve this by unanimous consent.
Any objections?
Reserving the right to object, Madam Chairman.
You're going in and out. Is that me or you? Did you say
No,
you're
sorry, that's you. Okay, I'll just, so I could be a sneaky parliamentarian and just object and kill it outright, but I'm not going to do that because I sense I'm the only one opposed to it. But I am opposed to it, so I would ask for the yeas and nays so that I can express my no vote.
Got it. All right.
I am a Luddite. I'm not a sneak.
Some reasoning behind the objection?
Yes, because traditionally it's important for people to attend meetings like this in person, especially the members of the board or commission or committee. And I think that's still the case even in a post-COVID environment. These were temporary, set aside of very important rules that govern this kind of thing. And as you can see, I'm a stickler for the rules. But I also think it's good for public bodies to be seen in person in public. So I withdraw my objection, but I ask for the yeas and nays.
I'll note the resolution does encourage folks to attend in person whenever possible, but for certain circumstances we've dictated we require them to be virtual.
No, it's a very well written, and the policy goals are laudable, but
All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and just quickly go through the yays and nays. And I think everyone by now knows the order. So Riley, maybe you don't need to do roll call.
Aye.
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 no.
Aye.
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 Thanks a lot, guys. It's a good resolution. Right. It's a good resolution.
Thank you. And then the last item on the list, we'd like to make a motion to move this to July. And this is 2932 New Mexico. The owners are not ready to discuss.
Yes, so I so move.
Thank you. Are there any objections? All right, that is moved to July as well. Thank you. We're now at the part of the meeting which is at 9 o'clock. It is now 11 o'clock. Thank you for everyone's stamina here. Last item on, we have a few more items on commissioner business, but we've moved past official item, action items. And I'm sorry, I want to go to the live agenda a second. We have an item for approval of ANC 3D's testimony at budget hearings. The testimony that is included is here, and this is for Commissioner Elkins to provide testimony at budget hearings for DDOT, DCRA, AONC, OANC, and OAH.
Madam Chairman, I've been willing to testify more than usual because of, as it was mentioned, it is easier to do so by virtual means. You can do a lot of work at your desk while you wait for other people to testify. I used to spend a whole day downtown just to have 3 minutes or 5 minutes at the hearing. So this is useful. And so I have volunteered to speak at these hearings. And let me make clear that you are not obligated to endorse my testimony. I will testify as an individual commissioner if you so deem that appropriate. But I'm asking for your endorsement if you agree with what you would see that I'm going to testify to. So I think I want to take each of these separately and just spend one or 2 minutes on each one. First of all, on DDOT, I have the most extensive set of comments on particularly because we've had such an active transportation committee. They've filled my head with ideas of things that the city is not doing that they should be doing and can be doing for a small amount of money. So I sent out ahead of time a list of items related to sidewalks and transportation planning and constituent engagement and Vision Zero. And so I'm not going to repeat those, but it's not in the form of testimony, but these are the basic points I would be recommending. So let me stop there and ask for a unanimous consent that I be authorized to speak on behalf of this commission. That allows me to speak for 5 minutes instead of 3, so there is a benefit to it, and also with more authority. And that's why I'm coming here and asking for that authority.
Thank you, Commissioner Elkins. Any objection? All right, there is unanimous consent for you to testify on behalf of the.
With regard to DCRA, at the last meeting, you approved some basic points. I don't have any new points to make. So I think I will pass on asking for any more authorization with regard to that. With regard to the Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commissions, you've all seen the survey that I and other colleagues put forth, and we got back the results. So 69 commissioners responded, about almost a fourth of our commissioners, and they did so in about 5 days, which is pretty good. And it showed a really strong support for enhanced activities to support us as commissioners on our constituent work, to get more training, to work on citywide issues. And so on Friday, the budget hearing for OANC takes place, and I'd like to testify in favor of those survey responses. As part of that, I sent out to you an idea that I came up with last week after testifying at the request of the chairman on blighted and vacant properties. This is a subject that I know very little about, but one of my constituents lives next door to the house I'm sure you've all seen on Foxhall, which is up on stilts and has been vacant for about the last 10 years. It's a farmhouse that was declared to be historic, and it is historic, I guess. That's about the most you can say for it. In listening to all the ANC commissioners testify about this subject, I said, this program just needs a little program management, project management. And so I wrote up a proposal for project management that would emphasize the role of ANCs, not so much ours, but other ANCs, which have a lot of these vacant properties, because that's where the energy is to fix these and to essentially work with DCRA to get these properties reoccupied. By DCRA's count, we have 4,000 of those. I think it's probably much more than that. lo and behold, Director Schroppa of the DCRA agreed that we should run a pilot under this project, and using ANCs as a supplement to his or support to his effort. And so this is an example of citywide ANC support for city agencies in getting the work done. We're not substituting ANC work for agencies, but we are helping them get their work done and hold them accountable. If you're willing to accept that as an idea, I think this is a department that needs a little held to be accountable. And so I'd like to present that as an example of how OANC should be supporting ANCs across the city to provide these services. These are services, this is support that OANC does not provide at the present time because they have not been directed to do so. I've had long conversations with Gottlieb Simon about this. He is supportive of this if in fact he's directed to do this. So I'm asking unanimous consent that I present the survey results as well as this example of how we can have ANCs play a vital role in dealing with a citywide issue and holding agencies accountable. So I ask unanimous consent for that.
Any objections?
Madam Chair, I don't have an objection, but Commissioner Elkins, I would encourage you to take a look at the ANC Technical Support and Assistance Fund and how that went with the proposed budget. I know that the all ANC group that Chander runs didn't address that in its survey or its report, but I think it's very important. And so if that's something you have time to include in your testimony and think is valid, I would take a look at it, just because it's increasing funding from last year and looking at how that was spent is probably going to be key to ensuring that ANCs that can't afford the out-of-pocket expense can transition to a hybrid meeting format. So I would urge you to take a look at it if you have time, but if not, I'll be testifying in that effect and a few other things with my colleague Yannick at GW on Friday as well. So
I agree with that. I think that's important. Gottlieb has hired now a technical assistance person, a former commissioner, and I think that's that we can look for more support in the future. But I think as we go now into this hybrid thing, I agree with you. That's something I would be glad to support.
Thank you. Any objections?
The final area is the Office of Administrative Hearings. This is the one I know the least about. I know more even about vacant and blighted buildings than I do about this, but it's only on the 14th, and so I got plenty of time to prepare. But the basic point is this, that as I've talked to DCRA about why they don't take more enforcement action against landlords who won't fix the toilet and won't fix the furnace, and why they will not go after people who don't have business licenses in this city, even though they are in violation. The answer I get back when I really press them is because if we bring an enforcement action, it will, and the person appeals, it will be at least a year before that case is adjudicated. And even when it is adjudicated, the only thing that's being adjudicated is whether they should pay the fine, not whether they should change their behavior. This, I think, the Office of Administrative Hearings is important from a due process point of view, that people should have the ability to appeal separate from the agency that brought the violation. I think we can all agree on that. It's just they're not staffed up enough to provide quick justice. And, to quote that famous thing, justice delayed is justice denied. That's certainly true for DCRA and other agencies which are trying to bring enforcement actions and which decide that it's just not worth it. These people game the system because they know that they can just wait out the process. So I would like to provide testimony that basically supports a budget increase for the Office of Administrative Hearings so they can be more responsive in terms of time. So I would ask unanimous consent for that sentiment that I could express at the budget hearing.
Any objections? Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for your support. You know, since I'm retired, I have plenty of time to do all this kind of stuff.
Well, we
My wife thinks otherwise, but thank you for supporting me and helping me do this citywide stuff.
Thank you. It's really helpful, and you represent us so well. So thank you. All right, we are moving on to the May minutes. I know there were some edits to the minutes. I want to make sure all of those got incorporated. And okay, and then are we ready to approve the May minutes?
I move that we approve the May minutes by unanimous consent as amended by Commissioner Elkins.
Thank you. Any objection? All right, those are approved. Treasurer's report. Commissioner
Right.
Berg.
Yeah, so here's the treasurer report for May. There's a number of checks that have been signed that are going to be going out shortly, but we have not had very much activity in the month of May. There it is. I'm not going to read it out. It's too many numbers now. The thing that I will read out is that there have been some updates to the quarterly financial report. So our Q2, the one we talked about last month, that's approved in the books. We're all good. There were some issues with the spreadsheet. It was a whole thing, but we're all good. There were some errors on the previous quarters. Errors, it's not Troy's fault exactly. There were things that had to be changed. So the revised checking balance numbers are there, and I've attached the revised summary sheets. We do not have to reapprove the Q1 for FY21 or the Q4 for FY20. I just need to report the revised numbers, and I'm going to be submitting it by just striking out the figures and signing next to it. That's what OANC instructed, but that's the story. For people who wanted to know, there was a check that was not, for whatever reason, it was left out. It was not credited back in September 2020, and but then it was later on, and that affected numbers. And then there were several checks that Troy wrote in kind of a I don't know, midnight judge move or something, Thomas Jefferson style, and on December 31st, so that they were not included on the sheet. That had to be added.
John Adams.
John Adams, yeah. Well, but before Jefferson came in, I'm Jefferson here. He was John Adams. Okay, that's the story.
I think we should also mention, Mr. Treasurer, that we have 2 grants that are being challenged by the people downtown, and that you and I are going to work on them. One of them is the one to Ward 3 mutual aid, and we have a draft memo on that, which I think will be persuasive. And the other one, which we have not worked on yet in terms of their challenge, is the one to the Friendship House, where we gave grants to help the homeless during the COVID. And I, at least, think as a matter of virtue that we should win this argument, because both of those grants were worthwhile and were done correctly. Whether we need the $4,000 that they're going to deduct from our account is perhaps debatable, but I think it's worth, as a matter of principle, not having them challenge these grants without us fighting back. And so Ben and I are going to take them on. We're going to arm wrestle them to the ground.
Yeah.
Right, Ben? Right.
That's right. I will do. Chuck, you just send me into the lion's den, and I will. Me and Gottlieb Simon will. I'll
Keep it out.
It does remind me that. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. What could be helpful is I believe that the schools, Key and Man, will come to us in the next couple of weeks with a grant request for funds to be used for some community-wide benefits, but that would also benefit in the fall their outdoor learning initiatives. So what could be helpful is if there's any lessons learned, if we can utilize those in this grant process as well.
Well, I think
Yeah.
I had a number of conversations with Gottlieb. Perhaps Paige, you and I should chat.
Okay, that
Maybe with
could
Ben
be
as
helpful.
well. But I
And-
think they're being a little narrow with regard to their interpretation. We need to be careful.
It appears that they're being a lot more narrow than the financial training that I went through in January suggests, which is pretty frustrating.
I think you're correct.
Yeah.
On that topic, I was wondering if we've considered making any efforts to give out more grants in the next year. I was on a call yesterday with Evan Eats at 4B, and he mentioned that every 10 years when redistricting happens, essentially all of the funds that an ANC has saved up gets pooled back to the DC government and then redistributed evenly to every ANC. So it's really great that, we've amassed this large savings account over the past decade, but it's all just going to get given back to the DC government and redistributed to people who may not be our constituents if we don't use it in the next year. So I don't know if there's ways we can increase spending to benefit the community, but it's something we should consider.
Well, I might say,
Is there, oh, go ahead.
I agree with you, Christian. I think that at the time that Troy Kravitz proposed that we start giving grants, he proposed that on a regular basis we solicit grants. I don't think we've ever solicited grants, and so most people in the community don't know that we can give money. I don't want us to overpromise, particularly because of some of our experiences where Gottlieb is saying that we did it illegally. But if we're careful, I agree with you. I think we do have enough money saved up. Is that right, Mr. Treasurer? We have a lot of money saved up, based because we've tried very carefully to husband our money. So maybe we want to put out a solicitation.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think the one caveat from our experience, obviously the law, I guess maybe it's still in place, but I think we should not pursue any grant requests that are outside our commission area.
It should be within our own, that almost all of the benefit is within our own ANC.
Yeah.
Virtually, like 99%.
I mean, the other thing on the expense, if there's any expenses that we want to consider or investments on communication or on the hybrid meeting, that's another thing that we have. We can do both, all three, because we have quite a bit of money.
I also, I at the risk of having people leap through this virtual screen at me, I know that Commissioner Elkins has suggested this on occasion. Potentially, now's the time to use some funds to help with a traffic study.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
A traffic, we might need to utilize some to help with the traffic study on Foxhall.
Well, that's certainly, yeah, we need a transportation study done by somebody. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's my view, right? Well, and I think this thing about going to hybrid meetings, I think this could be expensive for us, and we want to do it well.
Yeah.
And at least by talking to a contractor about this many months ago, it was going to be expensive if we got any help. Maybe we don't have to have help because we can do it ourselves, but if we do, maybe there's more equipment. When I looked at microphones that would be good enough for all of us to be heard, that was pretty expensive unless you wanted the latest from China, so or Vietnam or wherever. So excuse me, I'm not trying to be well, from wherever the cheap manufacturers are, and you're not sure what you're getting. So are we doing that planning so that we could make some decisions before the end of the fiscal year?
I think that we certainly need to. And is there someone who can help us research whether redistricting does mean that we start with we lose our savings, which were there specifically for rainy day events, like how are we going to do virtual meetings going forward, and should we conduct our own transportation study of a certain area? So that
I can touch base
because
with them. I can look at that.
okay, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
And on the subject of the hybrid meetings, I don't know who would be interested, but I think we should try to have maybe a meeting this month. I talked to some AU Sound people about it, and I think Commissioner Elkins is right that it's going to be relatively pricey. Personally, my assumption would be that the ANC should just fund that out of pocket, assuming that the DC government does not fund that in the upcoming budget, which I sadly don't anticipate they will. And then maybe we can look for reimbursement in the future if that's a possibility. But I think at the end of the day, it's like we can afford it and it's essential to connecting our constituents. So I don't know who would be interested in taking a look at venues and equipment and all of that stuff over the next month or two, but I think we need to begin to prepare since the public health emergency is coming to a close.
Well, I'll volunteer to help. Anybody else?
Likewise. Yeah.
Ben, good, great. Why don't we just get a committee together and let's just do it.
All right. Sounds good.
Check out.
All right, and then I believe there's a few checks that physically need to be signed and provided to people, specifically Commissioner Elkins. And so the thought was we're meeting for bagels on the 6th, which is this coming Sunday. My question before we wrap up this meeting is whether 9:30 is any time after 9:30 is too early. I'm going to say people, it'd be too early tomorrow, but maybe not on Sunday.
And do you want us to bring anything?
No, don't bring a thing. Just bring yourselves. I'm gonna pick up bagels. I hope nobody minds Georgetown bagels. I know I have to cross over the border into Maryland to get them. And I hope that's okay.
And we're looking for spouses and children as well?
Yes, children are welcome. I'm gonna
Right.
put.
Ben, you're not going to run up to Montreal for this?
You know, I will listen to the instructions of the chair. I am willing. I was going to bring different kinds of bagel, you know, but I do recommend going to bread first. Just do not leave your keys in your car like our council member did when she went to bread first. That's not a good idea.
I have thought about that a couple times when I've dropped my child off at school. Do not leave the keys in the car.
Madam Chair, we have one commissioner who has good news, and I'm going to push him a little bit to announce it. This Christian has some good news about his future, and I think it's time we should press him to tell us what it is.
Well, thank you. Commissioner Elkins generously wrote me a letter of recommendation last month as I was applying to AU's combined BA MPA program, and they accepted me. So I'll be getting my Master's of Public Administration at AU over the next 2 years, and that means I will be sticking around here for a little bit longer. So can't get rid of this yet.
Where are the rules?
Chairman.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Yes.
That's great. That's great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, you are an incredible asset to our ANC, and thrilled to hear that you'll continue to be here. Thank you. And you have a bright future ahead of you. So it's exciting. As an AU alum, it's exciting to see you, and glad that you're staying there for your master's.
Thank you. And Commissioner Elkins reassured me that AU will continue to give me housing. So hopefully I won't run into the same issues as my predecessor with that one.
And just think, Christian, you could be just like us. You could be an ANC commissioner when you get your degree.
And spend 2 hours and lots of time being yelled at. Yes. No, thank you everyone for all of the constructive criticism and feedback, and thanks to JP and Jason and Ben for their work this month. Thank you. This was a really tough thing to tackle.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, also.
Yes.
It's been a while since we had a meeting with a topic this contentious. I remember it well. It was the last one was the trolley trail. I think you handled this as well as Chairman Elkins handled that one. This one was a little bit rockier even at times. So good job, everybody.
The chat is a
Make a
challenge.
plea that we try to get these documents up on the website a little earlier. It is important that all commissioners see the drafts, but it's also important that the public have a chance to see them. And we did get a tremendous number of comments on, because we did get them up. I think we would have gotten even more if we had a few more days. But some of these other things, I just ask that we all keep in mind the drafting of the resolutions is both for fellow commissioners, but it's also to try to have as much transparency with our public as we can.
I agree. Thank you for that reminder and all the prodding over the months. Commissioner Elkins is really still holding my hand through this process. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, with that, I think we are ready to adjourn. Is there any objection to adjourning the meeting? As I slur my words, I'm so tired. Plus, nobody brought me dinner, so I'm starving. All right, thank you all. Good night.
Good meeting. Thank you.
Good night. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paige.